All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our December 16 Metro Management Council meeting. Thanks for being here. We do have three of our members join us remotely. Councilor Erickson, Councilor Kiley, and Commissioner Benninga are on WebEx and on the phone. Welcome. And then Commissioner Karski and I are here, so we have a quorum. We have all of our members present. So we'll be doing roll call votes on stuff so that we can make sure we get everyone's vote instead of just an overall voice vote, just as a housekeeping note. So we'll start with approval of our agenda. Just look for a motion to approve the agenda in a second.
So moved.
Second, Benninga.
All right, motion by Karski and seconded by Benninga. We'll take a vote on that. Commissioner Karski?
Aye.
Commissioner Benninga?
Aye.
Councilor Kiley?
Aye.
Councilor Erickson?
Yes.
And I'm an aye. That passes 5-0. So public input, anyone here to speak today? Not seeing any. We'll move on to item 3, approval of our minutes dated August 12 and September 3. Those were provided to us by Anna earlier in the week. They're also in your packets. So we just need a motion to approve those unless there's any changes to be made.
Move approval.
Second, Erickson.
All right, motion by Karski, seconded by Erickson to approve those. Let's take a vote on that. Commissioner Karski?
Aye.
Commissioner Benninga?
Aye.
Councilor Kiley?
Yes.
And Councilor Erickson?
Yes.
All right, I'm an aye. So that passes 5-0. We'll move on to item 4, Director's Report. Scott, good afternoon, man.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Scott McMahon, Metro Communications Director. We can start today by an important announcement within our agency, and that is that we recently had 2 promotions within our leadership team. I'd like to congratulate Amy Chase. You'd stand, please. And then also Amy to Deputy Director, and then also April Pontrelli to her promotion as Training Coordinator.
We'll clap for you guys. Yes, good news. Congratulations. So
Thank you.
make sure Scott gets you corner offices in this new facility we're building, okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, the next thing on the Director's Report is the South Dakota 911 Coordination Board contacted Deputy Director Chase and I last Friday and gave us some very good news, some news that was above and beyond what we expected to hear, and that is that there's a funding opportunity for PSAPs across the state, PSAPs being public safety answering points, during the 2021 and 2022 calendar year. And we received confirmation that Metro is eligible to receive up to $1,046,138.61 for approved projects that are approved through the South Dakota 911 Coordination Board. And these projects can be equipment projects, or they can be personnel or staffing type of projects. And as you may recall, through some of our previous leadership work, we presented a SWOT and we presented a business plan. And also in our 5-year future budget, we've talked about personnel and how important that is to our agency. So that is one of the things we'd like to look at with this funding opportunity is personnel. And our idea is between now and our next meeting, which is in March, is to have conversations with the city finance team and have conversations with the county commissioners to get some feedback on how they would feel about personnel and adding personnel or using this funding to support personnel.
That's incredible. And help us understand the source of those funds. Is it related to CARES Act, dollars, and is this is obviously just a one-time deal?
This is a one-time funding opportunity. There's a few different things related to it. One of the items is the South Dakota 911 Coordination Board with its master plan for Next Gen 911 had a previous vendor that didn't meet all the requirements, and there was a lawsuit involved, so there was some funding from that. And then in addition, some of the costs pertaining to the Next Gen 911 plan came in less than anticipated, so there's funding available in the general fund, if you will, of the 911 Coordination Board that they want to reach back out to PSAPs and provide some funding opportunities to bring down that level of funding that's currently there,
Okay,
or that balance that's there.
okay. Any questions from the council on that? I think that's phenomenal. I guess my comment would be, as we look at staffing, staffing is easy to hire, hard to fire type. Okay, so we have one-time funding,
Sure.
but that doesn't pay for this into perpetuity. So it obviously would change our revenue model. So it would be nice to also see supplemental kind of one-time expenses that you may have that may not be personnel related. I know some of that's going to be addressed. A lot of that's addressed with equipment and things with the new PSAP. So I'm guessing the obvious need would be in that staffing. There's also been times when potentially not just adding staff, but is there the need to look at kind of one-time salary adjustments or things like that, where we need to bump up the average wage, a couple dollars an hour to kind of get back to a market competitiveness rate and hold some of those funds in reserve to ensure that over the next 10 years or whatever it be, we can, make sure that we didn't overextend ourselves. So that would be my ask, is that there's maybe a couple options of how to allocate those funds, both with maybe staffing, personnel, bodies, salaries, and then maybe there's actual hard projects, equipment needs as well that may be of a more urgent nature.
Sure. We'll take a hard look at it from all points of view and see what we can come up with ideas. We already, as a leadership staff, had sat down and easily came up with more than $1 million worth of projects. I should mention, too, that as we've been looking at this new facility and looking at the costs associated with it, the county has come up with the FF&E for that building, and the city has produced the funding for the building itself. One outlier was always the phone system, and we were counting on the state to help us with that, assist us in that phone system project. That was about a $650,000 project, and we expected that to come out of this $1 million, but instead they're going to fund that separate, and we still have access to the $1 million. So really it's about a $1.7 million opportunity that we have when you combine those two things.
And are there requirements from the state board on what it has to, can it be put in reserves? Can it be, or does it have to be spent?
It will have to be spent in calendar years 21 and 22, and of course you'll have to provide, if you're looking at items that are general, you'll have to provide 3 quotes, and if there's items that you're looking at that are specific, such as a radio component or something to match up with another radio, then you wouldn't need the 3 component or the 3 quotes. So,
a couple questions. One, what is the cost of adding one staff person? Total cost?
it's roughly $75,900.
That's with benefits and everything?
Yes, with
75,000? Okay.
Salary and benefits.
Our PSAP got this amount. What did Lincoln County get? Do we know?
I can't recall right off the top of my head, but I did see the figures for all the PSAPs across the state. Basically, they had this pot of money, and they divided it based on staffing size and calls for service that are handled by that PSAP. They came up with a unique equation to figure that out, a formula. Okay. And just below us, of course, was Pennington County because of the size of their agency and the calls for service that they handle.
Okay, okay. Just things running through my mind. I'll keep them there for now. Thank you.
Sure.
Any questions on this piece on the phone?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
one of the things that Scott, you mentioned, kind of stole the words out of my mouth, so to speak, is if there's any additional things that need to be done on the PSAP that were scaled back. So if we need to add in whatever it is, now would be our time to make sure that that particular project is done without any cutting corners, so to speak. And I know we didn't cut corners, but it's one of those things where if there's some additional funding and we can make sure we get everything we want for you there so we don't have to come back and ask in a couple of years, that's where my kind of off-the-cuff comment would be, is to gear it towards something like that.
Thank you for that comment, Councilor Erickson. that is one of the ideas that we have come up with already as a leadership team is we'd like to add some radio positions. Radio positions are about $65,000 for each council. And we'd also like to add some additional councils so that we'll be prepared in the event that there's a partnership possibility. We will be prepared for that with the councils and the radios.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Scott.
Okay? Next item is Metro has had a long-standing agreement with the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Counselor Erickson, can you mute your phone again? All right, go ahead, Scott.
Okay. We've had agreement with the Veterans Affairs.
All right.
It's Kylie.
Can the folks on the phone be sure to have your lines muted? We're getting feedback when you're not muted there.
I show caller 2 and 3 here. Yeah, caller 2 and 3 are not on mute. I don't know, it doesn't have a name to it, so whoever caller 2 and 3, just make sure you mute.
Can we mute them from our control center there?
I don't know if you can do that on. You should be able to in the settings button. We'll try again here. The simulcast radio system provides radio communications for Sioux Falls public safety agencies, state agencies, federal agencies. The agreement permits the placement of an antenna on the Veterans Administration water tower and a placement of a building that contains radio equipment just beneath the water tower. We've been furnished with a 5-year lease agreement, and that has 3 5-year renewal options that go with it, which would expire in December of 2040. The negotiated lease upon commencement on January 1st, 2021 is $2,804.40 annually with a 3%.
I'm not sure if anybody can hear me, but whatever just happened, I can't hear anything.
I can hear you, but I don't think they
All right, let's unmute that
can
one.
hear them either.
I can't hear them either.
No, that makes 3 of us.
All right, well,
I'm muted.
all right. Now, we'll go now. We're trying to figure out this feedback issue. 2020.
Oh, you're on?
All right, you guys mute again, and we'll keep going.
Okay, so it's a 5-year lease agreement with the Veterans Affairs for $2,804.40 annually, 3% increase. This agreement was reviewed by our legal counsel, and there's no action required as it's a renewal. So, but we wanted to bring it to you and let you know what that amount is. We do feel that's a very favorable amount for us. So,
Okay, thanks.
Metro has received 3 healthcare plans from our insurance broker. The plans represent less than a 4% increase in our monthly premiums. Staff have already completed the enrollment process for 2021. Again, we feel this is a very good news for the agency as well as the staff members having a very small increase in health care insurance premiums. So we're happy about that. The next item is Metro has 4 communication operators who were hired back in September that are working toward completion of a training program. They'll be done approximately February of 2021. At that point in February, we intend to hire 5 additional communication operators to fill vacancies that we currently have. So it's right now we're down 5 positions. So. Metro continues to improve upon our health, safety, and security efforts. In regard to health, Metro has adopted all the commonly recommended COVID prevention measures. We've been very fortunate to not be affected in a negative way by the COVID. We've been able to stay fully staffed and manage the concerns that have come up. From a security side, the Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office and the information technology staff from Minnehaha County have helped Metro improve security by creating alternate access points to our facility. So if there's a reason why we can't enter one door, we're able to enter 2 other entrances now. In addition to that, the doors to the facility are being secured beyond business hours, so we don't have to be concerned with folks staying overnight in that entryway. And then also, we have video surveillance cameras that were installed, and we can now view the parking lot area and the entrance door area for the safety of staff. And with the help of the Commission Office, Metro has improved safety by creating parking closer to the public safety building. So we have less chance of slip, trip, and fall through the winter months here. And also it's closer for the hours that staff come and go from Metro. It just makes it a safer approach, so. From the building on the public safety training campus side, the new home for Metro, we continue to be involved in the planning of that facility. Everything is looking fantastic with what we see coming in our near future. And the current timeline indicates a completion date of fall of 2023. So with that, we'll produce some statistical information, and I'm going to ask Justin Faber, our quality assurance coordinator, to walk you through some of that data that he compiles for our agency.
All right, thanks, Scott. Hey, Justin.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. I'll be relatively brief since we got a long agenda today, but I just wanted to point out some of the stuff that we've been tracking over the last handful of months. While the numbers may seem relatively insignificant, it's actually kind of amazing what we've done as a system over the last year, really. So our calls for service, when you look at year-to-date for 2020, have been relatively level for the entire year. A lot of that, the influx of maybe a little bit lower here when COVID was higher, a little bit of an increase through the summer, and then back to a very slight decrease in the fall when COVID got higher again. What's interesting is that for the year, Metro's calls for service in 2020 will actually be higher than what they were in 2019. That may not seem like a big deal, but a lot of my peers across the country have seen anywhere from a 15 to a 20% decrease with COVID. So exactly what that means for our system, I'm not really sure. Exactly what that means for 2021, when we hopefully come out the good side of COVID and it's done and we can kind of open everything back up, I suspect we'll probably see a very significant increase. If we saw an increase with COVID when others were seeing a 15% decrease, we're probably in for something in 2021. And then also on the phone call side, oh, I think that might have been backwards. You might have to scroll back up to the first one. Yeah, so this is the actual phone call. So we also track total phone calls into the center and then also by council. And so I always like to point out really what our goal was for 2020 with the addition of the 4 FTEs that were approved was to see our Sheriff's Council, which is MCSO in the top right, and then our Fire Board, which is in the middle of the graph there. We wanted to see those numbers really go down for 2020. We wanted them to be off the phones and more attentive to the radios that they have to deal with. And both of those councils saw a very sharp decline for 2020. So that's awesome for us. That's all I got.
All right. Thanks, Justin.
Yep, thank you.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
if I could, Scott, or you, Justin, data is always a great thing, but we got to make it mean something too. And I'm looking through your business plan, which again, I appreciate. I kept it and I pull it out and I review it. And my question is, comparing data with the business plan and the projections for staffing, have you ever projected the calls for service so as time goes on we can correlate the calls for service with the staffing so that we know that we're at least on par with each other, that we're not getting too far ahead or behind? So just just maybe as next time you look at your business plan, if you could project out what you think calls for service might look like as the business plan projects the need for staffing, so that we can kind of relate back to it and refer back to it so we know that we're funding you properly and not over or underdoing it.
Did you want to talk about that 3%?
Yeah, so that is something that we look at a lot, is trying to project where we're going to be really in 10 years. And so we've always looked back at the previous 10 years, kind of use historically what our growth is to project moving forward. And for us, we do see a fair amount of fluctuation year to year, just because individual incidents can have such a massive impact. The flooding has a huge impact, the ice storm, tornado, yeah, exactly. So really, when we trend, we like to trend over much bigger periods of time, and 10 years is a pretty good number for us. And it's about 3% is what our growth ends up being.
And I know you look back, but I'm just, like I said, we're also projecting ahead. Like
Yeah,
how many
absolutely.
employees will we need in 2023 or 2025? What are we projecting our calls for service to look like also? I know it's just it's a best estimate based on your expertise, but that's what we need to be able to accurately do our job.
For sure, absolutely, and that's something we would be able to prepare.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Justin.
I'd just like to thank Justin for his work on all the analysis that he does in our agency of the data that we have. As a matter of fact, just today, there was a partnership agreement with our ambulance service, PCLS, and the health department and Metro Communications to purchase some software that's going to help us in this, in this world of evaluating data and trying to figure out what's best for the agency as we go forward. So.
And key word, evaluating it, and having it is one thing, but evaluating it and having it make sense so we can use it is important, so, yeah.
Okay, and that's the director's report, Mayor.
All right, thanks, Scott. All right, let's move on to our next item, our 2021 meeting schedule that we have to adopt. I believe it's there at the bottom of the agenda. Looks pretty standard, all Wednesdays, all 3:30 meetings, so do we need, I don't think we need a motion to approve that, do we? Yeah.
We did try to make sure that it didn't conflict with any other
Yeah.
city-county business meetings, so.
We're usually safe at this time, so
Yep.
I think that meeting schedule looks just fine. Let's move on to item 6, approval of 8 hours administrative pay for December 24, 2020.
Okay, in previous years, the Metro Management Council has approved 8 hours of administrative pay for December 24th, which is Christmas Eve. This practice is similar to other local government practices. Metro Communications bargaining agreement and our personnel manual recognizes December 25th, Christmas Day, as a paid holiday, but not Christmas Eve. I would respectfully request your authorization to approve 8 hours of administrative pay on December 24th.
I would make the motion to approve the 8 hours of administrative pay for December 24th.
I'd second that. Benninga?
All right, motion by Karski, second by Benninga on that. City just does the same thing. I think it's a nice gesture if we can do that and swing that, so thanks for bringing that forward. Let's take a roll call vote on that, please. Commissioner Karski?
Aye.
Commissioner Benninga?
Aye.
Counselor Kiley?
Yes.
And Counselor Erickson?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that passes 5-0. Move on to item 7, approval of resolution number 20-01, non-bargaining unit pay.
Okay, the bargaining unit of Metro Communications approved to enter into a 3-year labor agreement with Metro Communications on December 9th, 2020. This agreement stipulates a 1.75% cost of living allowance for the year 2021. This request is for salaried staff to receive that same 1.75 COLA in order to prevent compression between the various employment positions at Metro Communications. And I just respectfully request your approval of Resolution 2001 to authorize that increase.
All right. Any questions for Scott on that one? All right, look for a motion on that.
Move to approve.
All right, and I'll second that. Motion by Benninga, seconded by Tenhaken. Any discussion on this one, council?
That was moved by Kylie.
Oh, was there a motion by Kylie? I had Benninga.
I didn't, unless Gerald chimed in too. I did, but I'll second it if you don't want to, Mayor. Okay.
Sounds good. Motion by Kylie, seconded by Benninga to approve this item. And we'll take a vote on it, please. Commissioner Karski?
Aye.
Commissioner Benninga?
Aye.
Counselor Kiley?
Yes.
Counselor Erickson?
Yes.
And I am a yes, and that passes 5-0. Item 8 is the approval of resolution number 20-02, Deputy Director appointment.
Okay, this is a resolution to approve Amy Chase as the Deputy Director of Metro Communications. Amy was promoted to Deputy Director on November 2nd, 2020. Amy has served in various roles with Metro Communications during her 20-year career and is very well prepared to serve as the Deputy Director, and I would ask for your approval.
All right, thanks, Scott. Any discussion or questions on this one, or I'd look for a motion to approve Amy as our deputy director?
I'd make that motion.
Second, Kylie.
All right, motion by Karski and seconded by Kylie to approve Amy in that role. Any discussion on that one? All right, I'll call a vote here.
Would just like to welcome her to the role.
And thank her for 20 years.
Absolutely.
Anything you would like to?
Here's to 50 more.
Was that part of the job description?
Yeah, it's minimum.
I agreed to 5 years, and we'll go from there. My husband retires in 5, so we'll see what
Okay.
the city entails after that. But I just want to take the opportunity to thank you guys for allowing me to step into this role. I've kind of gone gangbusters. We're excited to take on the projects that we've got on the horizon, and it's an exciting time, so
It is.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, all right.
So thank you.
Thanks, Amy. All right, let's vote on that one, please. Commissioner Karski?
Aye.
Commissioner Benninga?
Aye.
Counselor Kylie?
Yes.
Counselor Erickson?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that passes 5-0. We'll move on to item 9, approval of resolution number 20-03, bank signatures.
Yes, this is a resolution to provide Honor Aker, Scott McMahon, and Amy Chase with the authorization to conduct bank transactions with First Premier Bank. This resolution will rescind MMC 19-02, which was previously passed on August 14th, 2019.
So that rescinding just basically removes the previous deputy director, right? Okay. Okay, look for a motion on this.
So moved, Benninger.
All right, motion,
Second, Kylie.
motion by Benninga, seconded by Kylie on this one. We'll take a vote on this. Commissioner Karski?
Aye.
Commissioner Benninga?
Aye.
Counselor Kylie? Counselor Erickson? And I am a yes, so that passes 5-0. Item 10 is the adoption of personnel manual revisions. Article 4, Section 4.23, leave donation, and Article 8 and Section 8.03, group insurance at retirement.
Okay, the creation of Article 4, Section 4.23, the sick leave donation policy. Unlike the city and the county, Metro does not currently have the structure to allow staff to donate leave to coworkers who are experiencing serious chronic health conditions. So we would like to put that structure in place and seek your permission to do that. Revision of Article 8, Section 8.03, the group insurance at retirement. This revision will grandfather current retirees participating in our group insurance plans while eliminating this benefit for future retirees. You might recall that this has been discussed at our Metro Management Council meetings several times, specifically as it relates to our annual audit. Recent audit requirements resulted in significant financial burden to the agency due to this retiree benefit. Right now, we just have one person, one retiree that's eligible and using this benefit. So with the adoption of both of these, both policies would take effect January 1st, 2021.
All right. On the leave donation piece, I'm actually going to put Matt on the spot. Do we have that in the city where we can provide leave? And it's to people with illnesses, that's kind of the requirement? So is there a requirement to prove how do you, what's considered donatable? Like, when do you hit that?
Well, there will be probably some FLSA-related circumstances related to the use of this type of sick leave. There is a cap on it. It won't be unlimited. There's also a cap in the number of hours that each employee can donate. So
Okay.
we want to make sure that it doesn't financially cause hardships for our agency, but at the same time, it can assist an employee through hopefully what will be a short-term chronic illness, and the best result is for everybody to return to work and
Sure.
be in good health.
Does the county offer this benefit too? Yes? Okay. Okay. And these are more just ignorance questions. I didn't know we had it at the city, so thanks for clarifying that. Any questions for Scott on either of these items? We'll adopt them both as one. All right, look for a motion.
To approve?
Erickson.
All right, motion by Kylie, seconded by Erickson to approve this. Let's call for a vote, please. Commissioner Karski,
Aye.
Commissioner Benega,
Aye.
Counselor Kylie,
Yes.
and Counselor Erickson.
Yes.
I am a yes. That passes 5-0. Move on to item 11, approval of our 2021 Minnehaha County Metro PSB lease agreement.
Okay, Metro Communications leases 4,296 square foot of space from Minnehaha County within the Public Safety Building. And this lease is renewed annually, runs from January 1st to December 31st. According to the 2019 lease agreement, the lease rate will increase at the Midwest Urban CPI Index of 0.5%, which results in a 0.06 cents per square foot increase from $11.82 per square foot to $11.88 a square foot, for a total of $51,036.48 to be paid in 12 monthly installments of $4,253.04.
It's a heck of a deal, and I move approval.
Thank you.
All right, we got a
I
second.
think since we're getting $1 million grant from maybe the state, we ought to quadruple that to 24 cents.
Yeah, I think we'll stick with 8 cents is just fine, I think. You want to second that?
Like
Commissioner?
true commissioners.
Yeah.
We're greedy.
All right, I got a motion on the floor from Karski. Can I get a second on the phone?
Benninger. Second.
All right, second
Benninger.
by Benega. And any discussion on that one? I'll call for a vote here. Commissioner Karski,
Aye.
Commissioner Benega,
Aye.
Counselor Kylie,
Yes.
and Counselor Erickson.
Yes.
All right, that passes 5-0. I'm a yes as well. That passes 5-0. We'll move on to item 12, a presentation of our financials as of November 30 of this year.
Okay. I'm going to ask Business Manager Anna Raker to walk us through the financial report that she's compiled.
All right, thanks. Hi, Anna.
Hello. In the interest of the meeting the agenda being fairly long, I'll try to be brief here too, but certainly stop me or ask any questions that you have. So you have your financial statements for the month, or for the period ending, the 11-month period ending November 30th in front of you. First in your packet is a balance sheet, and this balance sheet compares year-to-date in 2020 to year-to-date in 2029. Our cash is actually down a little bit. As you know, we had budgeted to use some of our cash reserve this year, and we manage our cash reserve in the city and county support as an independent agency, so those fluctuate up or down depending upon how we manage those funds. You'll see that accounts receivable is greater on November 30th of this year than last year. It's just timing of when I've billed for certain things and the receipt of funds. As we discussed last time, you can see the due from state and due from county. Those just show how close we were to estimating 911 surcharges and incentive funds at the end of 2019. And so we were within $36 this year of due from state, which is incentive funds, and $3,500 in due from county. And when you're talking millions of dollars, it's pretty close. So scrolling down, the things that changed throughout the year, and I have to apologize, that kind of struggling with the mouse a little bit, so sorry about that. Accounts payable, so you can see the accounts payable are very similar. It has to do with just the timing of the year and what kind of bills we get. A significant part of this accounts payable has to do with insurance. Our insurance is accrued at the end of each month and due at the first of the month following. And so when you think about just health insurance in general, that's a significant portion of that. So that's a pretty standard amount you're going to see every month. Moving on to the next report, this is a comparison of year-to-date profit and loss compared to the prior year. So this is comparing 11 months in 2020 to 11 months in 2019. And so you can see that as far as revenue, the 911 surcharges are very close to last year. And we've talked about this before. Our projected growth is around 1 to 1.5%. It's not a significant amount of growth as to what I know you would like to see. But what we continue to see is the subscriber lines across the state continue to decrease a little, but our share increases. And then the incentive funds have decreased ever so slightly because that's a portion of the statewide line count. When you think about it, it's reflective of those statewide line counts. City and county share, this reflects the increase of contributions and timing of the receipt of those. Services. Services increased significantly this year based on our projected budget. The PSAP fee from Brandon is a direct reflection of what we budget for revenues and expenditures. There will be a settle up at the end of the year if our revenues and expenditures vary significantly. You'll see that settle up during the audit adjustment process. You can see we had a grant this year for wellness. We received that earlier in the year, but that's reflected in the grants. And we'll talk about grants a little bit more when we get into our budget where we're comparing it to current year. In other revenue, the significant decrease is really all about interest. Interest rates really dropped in March, and that hit us pretty hard. And so you're going to see a significant drop just really because of that. Looking at payroll compared to last year, you can see that there is a significant increase in payroll, which would be expected. We added staff, and then you have step increases and COLA increases, and then there were obviously insurance, different things like that increased slightly. And so it's logical that you would see an increase from year one to year two, unless your staffing went backwards. When you're looking at operations, you'll see a decrease. And a significant part of this decrease is due to the 911 phone system. So drop down to utilities here, and you'll see that last year it was $187,000 on November 30th, whereas this year it's $97,000. And if you recall, we've reported that the state of South Dakota took over the 911 trunk lines, and that's going to save us about $100,000 this year. And so the significant savings is right there. The other thing I would point out is that our travel and training is down due to COVID. We're still trying to do as much training as we can, but obviously minimal travel. But some training had to be canceled or postponed. And so there's some savings there too. Under repairs, that's just the timing of payment of the reimbursement to the city for our share of the CAD. And it just, we had paid that bill in November last year. This year, we'll pay it in December. And then capital outlay, you can see we have a
Can you hit on the professional services too?
Sure.
Line 11?
Sure.
What's driving that increase?
That is the timing of, very good question. That's the timing of our reimbursement to the city for EMS oversight. And so we pay about $30,000. It's actually $29,000 a year to the city for emergency medical dispatch for EMS oversight for our accreditation. And it just so happened that last year we had paid the city for our CAD software in November, but we paid for the EMS in December, and this year it was flipped.
I see. Thank you.
That was budgeted for?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it's budgeted for. So now we're going to compare year-to-date actual to budget to date. So your first column is year-to-date 11 months. And then the original budget, this is 11 out of 12 months of the budget. And then the variance just tells you how far off we were, just looking at that 11 months. And then the next column is the annual budget, and then it tells you the percentage of the year-to-date is of the annual budget, okay? So I'll point out in 911 surcharge that the variance is nearly $220,000. That is simply timing of when the state paid us. Every once in a while, we don't get the funds from the state by the end of the month, and it pushes into the next month, and that's what happened here. So those funds were transferred to us by the county the 1st of December. Normally, they should have come in November, but it was just a delay in that, in receipt from the state. Speaking to 911 surcharges, Scott and I talked this morning and about surcharges in general, and I'm estimating that we're going to be around 30,000 short of our projected revenue, or about 36,000 short of our projected revenue in surcharges. And that's a lot of money, but when you're talking about 2.6 million, it's really about it's a little over 1%. So that again is, most of that is in the incentive side because the statewide line counts are down and the line counts determine the surcharges. And even though we're getting a larger number of those line counts to us, our portion of the pool doesn't change. And so those incentive funds are dropping just a little. The other thing to keep in mind is we budget a couple years ahead of time. And so when we budgeted for 20, we were basing that on 2018 data. And at that time, we were seeing a greater, the projection was greater for growth than we saw in 19, and that trend has continued into 20. And I think a lot of it is economic. People make choices. You can see the city and county share, and then the PSAP service fees, those are right where we expect them to be for 11 months. You can see we've exceeded audio recordings. We're down in EMS transfer fees. They saw a significant drop when COVID first hit, and that's reflected specifically in those numbers there. And there you can see your interest income, what the difference is. It's significant. And then we had additional revenues in miscellaneous revenues, and if you recall, Scott reported to you that we received over $7,000 as a share of funds from the statewide 911. They split the funds that they received from the old vendor from 911, the phone system, and so that was a nice little pocket of money for us. Looking at the year-end projections for revenue, I'm estimating that we're going to be down about $7,500. And that's due in great part to Scott and the team have worked on some grant funds, and we're anticipating grant funds of over $50,000 for some purchases, and he's talked a little bit about this, and so I'm projecting those in there, which will get us closer to our projected revenue. But I'm also projecting those in expenses, so they're a bit of a wash, if you want to consider it that way. Looking at personnel, we've done a great job of managing overtime and using our temp staff, and that's reflected here in the numbers you see. You can see that 11 months to date, our gross salaries are almost $254,000 below what we had budgeted. We've had quite a few vacancies this year, and our team has really stepped up, and they've done a great job of managing temp staff to cover a lot of those vacancies. And that's why, overtime, we're down in overtime, even though we've had those vacancies, and it's because we're way over in temp. So we've been able to utilize temp staff so that we're not burning out our staff, and then we're also saving benefits in dollars right now. And Scott talked to you earlier about the plans for hiring and where we're at as far as filling those vacancies. And when you look at the insurance, you can see that that's reflected in insurance also. So part of the savings in insurance here is due to the fact that our insurance premiums came in well below what we thought they would for 20, and also because of vacancies. So both were great savings for us. We've done very, very well with management of our benefits and the rates we've been able to obtain for our benefit packages. Looking at the projections through the end of the year, I think we're going to be well over $275,000 in savings in personnel. And that certainly wasn't anticipated, but due to the things I've described, that's where we're going to be, and that's going to add or reduce the amount of cash reserve we use at the end of the year, which sets us up in a better position for 2022 planning. Looking at operations, the most significant changes are, you'll notice in the maintenance contracts, there's $52,000 there. That's reflective of the fact that normally we would have paid the city for the CAD software in November, but we're paying that in December. And then you'll see the $94,000 under dispatch communications. That's 11 months of savings on those 911 trunk lines. Under operations, I'm anticipating that we will, even with the grant purchases of $50,000, will still be over $50,000 under budget. And again, a significant amount of that is those trunk lines. And then you see our capital outlay down here, which is the purchase of the recorder that Scott talked to you about earlier this year. We had originally budgeted for a phone tree, but it was determined we didn't need that phone tree because of the new phone system. So knowing what was happening with the trunk lines and identifying the need he did for the recorder, we took advantage of that and took care of that cost. And that is a quick overview. Do you have any questions? I guess the last thing I would add is the combination of all that means that instead of using $530,000 in cash this year, which is this figure here, those savings mean that we'll actually use about $215,000 in cash. So it does directly affect the city and the county in a positive manner.
All right. Thanks, Anna. Any questions for Anna on the presentation of the financials?
Looks like we're in good shape. I'd move approval.
And do we need to accept these with a vote? We do. Okay. All right, we got a motion to approve them by Commissioner Karski, seconded by, I think that was Counselor Kiley. Any discussion? All right, Commissioner Karski?
Aye.
Commissioner Benega?
Aye.
Counselor Kiley?
Yes.
Counselor Erickson?
Yes.
All right, and I am a yes, so that passes 5-0. We have a budget amendment item 13 to approve.
So following up the financials in the year-end estimate we just discussed, we're in a good situation with personnel and operating. And although we're going to be under by projection in revenue, that number is far less than where we're at with those savings in personnel and operating. But we do need to adopt a budget amendment to support that capital outlay purchase that Scott presented to you earlier this year. So I'm requesting that I'm requesting a motion to approve an amendment of the 2020 budget by reducing expenditures for operating and increasing expenditures for capital outlay by equal amounts of $13,600.
All right. All right, request a motion for that, reducing operating and increasing, is increasing what? The
Capital
outlay for $13,600. So moving that money from one pot to the other, basically. Look for a motion on that.
Move to approve, Erickson.
Second, Kylie.
All right, motion by Erickson, seconded by Kylie on that. Any discussion there? All right, we'll take a vote, please. Commissioner Karski,
Aye.
Commissioner Benninga,
Aye.
Counselor Kylie,
Yes, yes.
Counselor Erickson.
Yes.
All right, and I'm a yes, so that passes 5-0. All right, we need a motion to go into exec session for the purposes of and as authorized by South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-23.
So moved.
Second that, Karski, moved, seconded by Tenhaken. Commissioner Karski,
Aye.
Commissioner Benninga,
Aye.
Counselor Kylie,
Yes.
Counselor Erickson.
Yes.
All right, and I'm a yes, so that passed 5-0. So we'll go into exec sesh. How does this work with Tony and the audio? You guys got that?
Yes, we need to make 2 notifications, one to Tony and one to the IT department, so.
Okay.
Just take a minute.
Okay. And if you didn't hear that, they got to make a couple adjustments, and then we'll move into exec session. I think we'll be able to stay in this room then, correct?